Hey, Tom, how are you this morning, my man?
I'm doing fine. How are you this morning, Rich?
I'm doing good. You ready for round two of our Breeders' Cup preview picks, pace analysis, and previews?
We're going to double our pressure today with two on the West Coast.
Yes, out in Del Mar. We had on jockey Trevor McCarthy last night in our Players Edge podcast. You can catch the video over at YouTube. Soon it'll be up at horseracingradar.com. And he gave us some nice insights, a little bit of the difference between running on the East Coast and the West Coast, and a little bit of a hint of what to look at on the track in terms of bias. He had mentioned on the dirt races, man, you better get up front and stay up front and have yourself a fast pony if you plan on winning. So we'll take a look at the Del Mar Handicap and the TVG Pacific Classic. And those horses, the Del Mar Handicap horse goes off to the Breeders' Cup Turf, and the winner for the Pacific Classic runs off. Well, they don't run off. They just go back to the barn, come back out for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Not much traveling for these winners, I don't think. You agree?
Well, some are East Coast horses. Some are East Coast horses. I'll touch on that when we get to talking about the race.
Yeah, right. And I'll drive you crazy with the pronunciation on purpose. All right, let's get started. The first race that we're going to cover, we're going to go backwards. So we're going to start with the Del Mar Handicap, which is a race that's on the main track, as I mentioned. The winner run. I'm not the main track. It's on the turf course. Otherwise, they wouldn't be running in the Breeders' Cup turf, right? It's 1 3/8 miles. Excuse me, on the Del Mar track. Here you can see the race right here at race number 11. A little bit stumbling around my words this morning there, Tom. It's too early in the morning for me. I think it's what's going on. So let's take a look at what the profile of a winner for the Del Mar Handicap looks like for the last 10 races. This is a race where you want to play the chalk, sort of. The race time favorite finished second in 5 of the last 10 Del Mar Handicaps while winning 3 times. So while you might want to get away from the favorite in terms of the post-time choice, you don't want to get away too far in odds, because the typical winner, including the favorites, went off at a little more than 7-2. It was like 3.7 to 1. Another thing you want to keep an eye on is trainer Philip D'Amato's horses. He's won 4 in a row and 6 of that's the last 7. So I got a little bit of a spelling error there. The last 7. He sends 2 to the last 2 champions out again, Red King and Acclimate, along with Say the Word, to this year's Del Mar Handicap. As Tom and I were talking about before, we're actually in an email he sent back to me. We want to think tortoise, not hare, because there has been a major, what kind of bias on the grass there, Tom?
Oh, it's a major bias toward the closers. Speed being on the front's like a death sentence out there at Del Mar this year.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as post positions are concerned, we want to be middle out as well. Because 6 of the last 10 were a 6 or higher, so they had that black and green on, black and yellow on, and actually the last 5 left from lucky number 7 or a higher number. So outside closers looks like the way you want to get into this winning circle. Let's take a look real quick at the pace setup for this race. So when you look at the pace setup, the early pace projections, this is the Acclimate is the horse that might get the death sentence per Tom. It's going to be the fastest out of the gate. Award winner will be not too far behind, as you can see. And then on the way home, if you're looking for the closers, Masterpiece, Red King, last year's champion, Arklow, Say the Word, United. Those should be the horses that are closing the hardest at the end. Do you see anything in there that you agree or disagree with, Tom?
Well, I'm right on you with the early pace projections, the late pace scenario. For the most part, I agree with that. I think Master of Foxhounds is going to close a little bit better than he has in his last couple of races, just because he's dropping in class. And you know what? When you're trying to close your last 2 races against domestic spending, you're not going to look like you're closing very fast. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he did.
And that's your 2 Emmys, right?
Yes.
Then you can actually get away from that horse altogether and stay ahead and not give up the lead until the end of the race. So let's take a look at the horses one by one, and then you can tell us what you think about them, Tom. I'll chime in, and then we'll see which ones we like, which ones we think have a chance to win. So the first horse in the field is Media Blitz, 30-1, ridden by Umberto Rispoli, trainer Simon Callahan. Been at Del Mar twice with a win in a second.
I don't understand this. It's a California play. We run twice at optional claiming for 62.5, and we win and by a length and 3/4, and all of a sudden we think we're a grade 2 horse. I mean, that's not taking a slight class jump. That's not jumping 2 class jump. That's walking off the pier into the ocean. I know some people say, hey, look, this horse is really on the improve. And yes, its speed figures improved slightly the last out, but it's still a lot slower than the other horses. I do like the fact that Rispoli, for some reason, decides to ride this horse instead of either his choice of Master of Foxhounds or
the other one he was going to be on. That's all right.
Well, or one that he's run before, or Red King. Red King.
Yes.
Red King. He's raced on Red King the last 8 times and opts to jump off Red King to ride this horse.
Yeah,
either
defending champ.
So that means I might throw it at the bottom of an exotic, but I just don't see it.
So it's not a simply forgettable horse.
Well, it's close to it.
Number 2, Crossfire Hurricane. This is another one I think gets the treatment simply forgettable. What do you think?
I disagree. Here's a horse that it's a tale of 2 careers. This horse won his first 4 races in Europe. Won a grade 3 at 9 furlongs, which, we're stretching out, a little bit more today. But, then started to experiment on the Poly, ran in the, Irish Derby, was just entered way over its head, got ambitious. The connections brought the horse to the United States. Since it's not run on Lasix in the United States, I'm going to assume it came to the United States looking for firm ground. He had a bad break last time, no real impact. Gutierrez decides to stay on this mount. Mike McCarthy won the Preakness. You can't say, I can't question where he's at as far as placing horses. And, decent works, but you know what? I got to think this horse could come up and be an upset special. I don't think he can win it, but I do think this Son of Kitten's Joy can, round out your tickets.
Yes, well, he's an all or nothing horse, right? Won 4 races out of 7, hasn't done anything else. 2 of 4 on the turf. If at his best effort, maybe he can get it done, but I think maybe this one is way over its head because in terms of speed figure, it has a lot of ground to make up in its second start here in the U.S. in order to be competitive with some of these other horses. Like Red King, who I believe is the defending champion and hasn't won since. Think he can do it again?
Absolutely correct. No. And I would ask the question, I go back to the last race on opening day or opening weekend. It was actually on Saturday. Why the barn chose to run this race in the 1.5 mile, Cougar the second on the dirt. Rispoli saw something that day, decided, I don't want to ride this horse again. I'm going to take the one. When you're trying to win the Breeders' Cup Turf and go back to that race, and to get that way, you got to win this race that you won last year. Why do you enter the horse on the dirt? Now, the first thing I'm going to tell everybody, and I should save it for my preview of the next race, throw out all the speed figures you see on that Cougar the second. I do not see these speed figures any correlation to how that race was run. I don't know how they scored it, but just throw it out. This horse, since he's last won a year ago, has lost to many that he's facing today. Arklow, Say the Word, award winner, the barnmate Acclimate, Astronaut, all of them. I just do not see this horse closing as strong as he did last year. I don't see this horse coming into the race anywhere near the form that he came into this race last year. And I think the 7-year-old's lost a step.
May have indeed lost a step, and if that speed number is inaccurate, then he was one of the few horses who did run a speed figure over par last time. We have to trust that they're accurate. Tom says throw them out. So I look back. He's not been that far off this year. He seems like he needs a little bit more juice at the end, and maybe Rispoli did find a little bit of juice there. But one thing I do like is to switch to Joel Rosario, because I think Joel is one of the best jockeys, at least anecdotally from watching, of getting the most out of the horse coming down the lane late. It just seems to me whenever he wins, a lot of times he comes from off the screen and then all of a sudden, boom, he's there. I think you'll see a improvement in terms of the late run out of Red King under Joel Rosario. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way it's just every time I lose to Rosario, it's because he comes up from behind and beats me. United, that was the horse that Red King beat by a head last year. Do you think that they can get his revenge this year?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is remember in the conditions, this race is a handicap, and the racing secretary who sees these horses every morning has deemed this horse to be the favorite and the best horse because he made him the high weight. I was very, very impressed in the Eddie Reed watching this horse run. In fact, I singled this horse in a pick 4 and a pick 5 that day over Smooth Like Straight, who had just, been to Kentucky and ran with domestic spending and a Colonel Liam. And long story short, this horse came out, was exactly as advertised, laid off the lead. Pratt gave this horse a great ride. Pratt fits this horse like a glove. And while this horse lost by a head last year, you look at the races this horse has come back and won. Won the John Henry at Santa Anita going a mile and a quarter. Won the San Luis Rey at Santa Anita going a mile and a half. Won the Eddie Reed here at Del Mar going a mile and an eighth. Won 5 times on the course, 3 wins in 2 seconds. I mean, this horse, you got to look at on paper. This looks like, one of 2 that's got to be ahead of the rest.
I agree. And he's also done very well at Del Mar. 5 races. So he's a horse for the course with 3 wins and 2 seconds. So he's never missed the board at Del Mar. And like I said, last year, almost the defending champion. A little bit more at the end, he probably gets it home. And he's always been one of the betting favorites. So the public likes this horse too. I expect that you'll see this horse go off as the favorite. I think the odds maker got that one right. Master of Hounds is a horse that you expect more out of today. Last time out, couldn't catch domestic spending. This time out, first time off a layoff. Last time it made it first start off a layoff. Horse won at Santa Anita and the San Marcos Stakes. So perhaps this is a horse that can improve or at least runs well fresh, Tom.
Well, I look at horse racing and this race being class. And I see all of these California horses, and I think they're definitely not one, more like 2 steps below the class of the East Coast. You've got this horse who has been keeping the company of domestic spending, Colonel Liam. I mean, Colonel Liam won the Pegasus Turf. Domestic spending won everything except last week's Arlington Million, which was just done in by a 53-second half mile. This horse will get an honest pace today to chase. He's made some speed figure improvements. He showed me more 2 back on Derby Day in the Turf Classic. He started to make a move. Yes, his move isn't as fast as domestic spending, but there's no Chad Brown entrance in this field. I mean, This horse has kept good company. This horse knows, how to run well. This horse has been on the board 50% of its career starts, and it's kept right there. Did not embarrass himself on the San Luis Rey against United when it had kind of a wide trip. Didn't really know how to run and have that late kick. And it seems this Barnes putting this horse all together at this point. Baltus is a pretty good trainer off of the layoff. And from what I heard from a pretty trusted source the other day that after that race at Belmont, he put this race on the target, told my acquaintance, I'm going to come back in the Del Mar handicap and then be in the Breeders' Cup. So I got to put some value to that, and especially I figure with the 2 of Arklow and United, I'm going to get a pretty good price on this horse. This is going to be probably my top pick.
All right. Well, it does have the top pedigree in terms of purse money. It is taking a little bit of a drop in terms of purse, so perhaps Richard Baltus is right. The last race speed figure, if that one's trustable, then that was also above par for this level. Number 6 is Masterpiece. And every time I put this into Word wants to correct me because it's not proper. But anyway, it's like, what do you think about Masterpiece, Tom?
It's not proper, and this Chilean import has not been running proper in this country. Chad Brown gave up on this horse. If Chad Brown's willing to give up on this horse, I'm going to give up on this horse. So Chad, I'll trust.
Chad, you'll trust. Simply Forgettable again. Acclimate, the champion 2 years ago, comes back, and this horse is going to be on the lead. And if he can get away with the fractions like 2 Emmys, maybe we can get a repeat of what we saw at Arlington, get to the front, stay at the front, and win this one again. Or kind of like what Got Stormy did last week in our Breeders' Cup.
The problem with Acclimate is they ain't 2 Emmys in this race, but there's an award winner in this race, and that's in post 9. And this horse, we're going to want to go to the front with this horse. Once again, I questioned the D'Amato barn. Why, if you have the horse that won this race in 19, you came back and ran in the Breeders' Cup turf, took the field all the way to, the top of the lane. You only ran the horse once in 2020. I'm an owner. I'm paying the day rate every day. I'm paying $105 every day. I'm paying to get the horse shod all year. And yes, I know that we had a pandemic, but you didn't run the horse from the 2nd of November of 19 to the 27th of November of 20. It doesn't add up to me. And, the horses come back and, one win, it's hit the board, but let's face facts. It's been running against the junior varsity squad out here in California. So I just, had a good career. You ran this race once, you got a death sentence because you like the speed. It's a terrible setup. I don't even know if I'd run this horse. Yeah, D'Amato's got 2 others in here. Probably my least favorite of his 3 that he's bringing forward.
Well, I think if he can get away, steal early fractions, that's his. I mean, he's got one way into the winner's circle, and it's in the past performance. You can see it. 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. He's going to have to be on the front, stay on the front, and get away with some easy fractions, much like 2 Emmys did. Right. Other than that, not your winner. Arklow is another horse that should be coming late. One of the best late pace horses in the field is 1-for-1 at Del Mar. Last race out, had some problems, clipped its heels and stumbled at the United Nations in Monmouth. So you got to throw that race out.
It's so hard for me to look at this horse and not think of Oaklawn Park. I, for years, have seen this horse run at Oaklawn to start the year. This horse has made $2.75 million. You don't realize that. He's only won 9 times in 33 starts. Deep closer, has been to California once, came out last year after the kind of dismal, disappointing Breeders' Cup turf. It was nice to see Brad Cox actually lose 1 race on the Breeders' Cup card last year. What did he win 4 that weekend? I almost forgot he lost 1 race. But long story short, he came out here. They threw him on the plane, came out to Del Mar, won the Hollywood Turf Cup with no problem at all. Just, came and just nailed him right at the wire like he does. I agree with you, scratch through the last. I don't think he beat very much in the Louisville. And that was Red Knight he beat that day, not Red King, by the way. I made that mistake when I went through the past performances the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a nice horse. I think he's probably one of the top horses in the division. I just somehow, my little voice inside me tells me not today for this one. Yeah. This might be the dress rehearsal for November.
Yeah. Well, he's taking a little bit of a purse drop here too, from $500,000 to $300,000 this time around. I think Arklow will become an end. I don't know. It feels like an old man horse to me. I agree with you. That little thing beeping in my head saying, hey, be careful on this one. Award winner, this is the one you think is going to go out with Acclimate. I don't know that it has the pace figures to keep up, but it can certainly try. It looks to me more like cheap speed than real speed. I think if it gets pressed, it's going to fade.
Do you really think that people are lining up the coolers on their Friday and the sandwiches and getting the tents and getting their buddies and say, let's go tailgate in the parking lot of Del Mar to watch a speed duel that's orchestrated between jockeys Ricardo Gonzalez and Juan Hernandez? Absolutely not. These guys are both going to go to the front and just be clueless and burn up both their horses. He couldn't take the field, 9 furlongs in the Eddie Reed. He's not going to be able to take it another quarter mile today. This horse, I think the whole thing about the Charlie Whittingham was kind of a fluke because you look at other races and, he's an optional claimer, just like the one horse here. Just dreaming.
Just dreaming. Simply forgettable. Number 10, Astronauts. I don't think
what?
this horse has a shot either.
For every bride, there's a bridesmaid, and this bridesmaid's finished second 5 of 8 times. That would be ecstatic today, and the sheriff's barn would be extremely happy if that horse did that. That's not going to happen with this crew.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Much tougher company.
This horse should actually, Rich. This horse actually should be running on the card in a non-winners other than maiden race, because this horse literally has only won 1 time in 8 starts. This horse would dominate. The barn has thrown this horse over its head.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think it's over its head too. The only chance it has is if it can get like at slower pace and be close to the front and have a chance to get past everybody out of the turn and just not give up the lead because it has enough late legs left to hold on. But if it's a race that I expect, it won't have a shot. Say the word. This is the other D'Amato horse, and as I mentioned, he's been the dominant trainer. Is this the one that's going to win?
I don't think it's going to win, but I think it'll win the race of the 3 in the barn. Obviously, we've talked about, jockeys picking their spots. Let's look at Mike Smith. He's got a mount in the 10th race. He opted not to ride this horse. Pratt's riding elsewhere. Obviously, Saez isn't taking the trip. So they've got Jolt and Joe Bravo on here. Making and Joe's done fairly well his first year out on the West Coast. He's winning races at a 17% clip. I like him the best of the 3 entrants. I think pace-wise he fits the best, but he's not in the class of United, Arklow, Master of Foxhounds, any of these that he's won against and been beaten by.
All right, so now's the time to tell me who you think is going to win.
I'm going to go with the 5 horse in an upset, Master of Foxhounds, over your 4-8-2, which would be your 4 of United, 8 of Arklow, and 2 of Crossfire Hurricane.
Yeah, for me, I think the winner is going to be United. And then I do think that Acclimate has a chance to get up near the front and stay there, maybe fade into a 3rd or a 4th at the end. I expect a better run from Joe Rosario out of Red King. So that's another horse that I expect that you'll see in the exacta, trifecta, in the exotics. And I'm also with you on the Master of Hounds. So those are my 4 horses for the Del Mar Handicap. We'll move off now to the next race, or the race before that. That is the Pacific Classic. And again, yesterday talking with Trevor McCarthy, this one's going to be on the dirt. They're going to be running 1.25 miles, and Trevor, and of course, as Matt Carruthers told us, when you have these big events at a track, they're fast, but they usually soup them up to be even faster. So it'll be interesting to see how much speed plays into this race. What do you think is going to happen in terms? You think speed's going to hold on here? Or that's what you're expecting to see?
I am not. And the reason I'm going to say this is a dress rehearsal for this racetrack on how it will handle Breeders' Cup Day. The criticism for years of California tracks on Breeders' Cup Day is the local California horses go to the whip as soon as they come out of the gate and take them all gate to wire. Mm-hmm. I truly don't think they're going to do that. Typically what you see at Del Mar is more of an honest type race. I do think with the racetrack being so close to the ocean, it's a little more difficult to soup it up than it is, say, a landlocked racetrack like Churchill Downs. Typically on big days, I don't see it being so much speed dominant that they, improve the buyers' speed figures of the Brisnet speed figures, 5 points because of how the racetrack is. Mm-hmm. I think instead of speed in this race, I look for older horses to dominate and experience. There's only been one 3-year-old win this race since 2003, and that was shared belief. And I think as far as California horses go, that horse as a 3-year-old was once in a lifetime.
All right, let's take a look at the profile of the past 10, because they don't really run that many at the current meet at 1.25 miles. So a profile of a Pacific Classic winner. You want to play the favorite because the post-time choice is finished first or second in 9 of the last 10 spots, winning 6 and coming in with a place payday 3 times. You want to be fast. Maybe the fastest out of the gate, because 5 of the last 10 Classic champs went wire to wire. 1 ran co-pilot and a pair were 3rd. at the first call. So you definitely, history has said, be fast. And most likely you want to have a post from the middle out, as 8 of the last 10 to grab the Pacific Classic hardware, in this case, runoff to the Breeders' Cup Classic, have worn the green and white 5 or a number higher than that. Let's go ahead and take a look again at how the pace setup looks like it might work out. So early up, you see that Express Train is a horse that could be on the lead, followed by Tis a Magician, Tripoli, Magic on Tap, and then on the way home, Tom, what's the name of that horse on the way home?
DR Post, not Dr. Post, DR Post. There's no period there, people.
Do you see anything here that you agree or disagree with in terms of where the horses will be out of the gate and coming home?
I would say I agree with them out of the gate. I do think Mike Smith might be a little gamesmanship and might try to have Royal Ship a little bit closer to the front. I realize he doesn't have very much horse, so he's going to try and steal this on the front. Might also be interesting to see how Giroux decides to ride Independence Hall. I think he might actually see if there's enough pace, especially watching the horses warm up in the post parade. He might try to make this horse run from the back.
All right. So let's take, now that we've taken a look at the pace setup, let's go ahead once again and look at the horses and see what our thoughts are on every horse. The first horse is Tripoli. Gets the high winning rail at 18%. A couple of really nice speed numbers there in a row, popping over triple figures. Finished second last time out between a couple who are here. What do you think is going to happen?
I think his horse has made a dramatic improve, and I don't know why it took Sadler 11 races to realize this horse wasn't a turf horse. This horse just kind of floundered on the turf, couldn't do it for anybody. Took this horse, did the class drop to give him some confidence in June. The last week at Santa Anita, won an optional claiming event by a half a length. Then came back in the San Diego handicap, was given a real lightweight, came back, and started to close, but could not run down Express Train. Did split the rivals. One of them, he did beat Royal Ship, but I just don't see this horse today. I think distance is a real challenge. You go from 1 mile and a 16th to 1 mile and a quarter. I just don't see the breeding there. I've never thought, Love Train, even with it being, a Tappet, I don't see it getting 10 furlongs.
I do like the fact that after the last race, it's put in some good workouts, a couple bullets. That tells me the horse does like the Del Mar track. Ran there once last time out, did have a nice second in that spot. So, and then looking back, I'm a big cycle guy. The horse is making its third race off of a layoff. And in its previous 3 race cycles, that third race was the best of the 3. So I think you could see some improvement out of Tripoli, and it may be factor. And it's maybe one of those horses that's better than people think.
Thiago Pierre has won 1 race in 56 tries this year. I don't think when he sits in the jocks room tomorrow in the biggest race of the entire meet, he's going to sit there and be able to outride Flavian Pratt and Mike Smith in the gamesmanship that he's going to have to get this horse home with the pace scenario.
Yeah, probably not. Tis a Magician, the My Racehorse horse. 5-1, the Tis a Magician is going to attract a lot of betting from the folks who own shares in this. I'd be surprised if it went off of 5-1. Although Got Stormy was another My Racehorse horse, and they didn't really get bet down that hard. I feel like if I know you mentioned that race's speed figures aren't accurate, but if that horse can run that same number again, he's not getting beat. I have a feeling he's going to get out to the lead. That's been the place to be. The others are going to chase him. And I think he's going to have a real good shot to win this race.
If he runs this speed figure today and he runs the speed figure on November 7th, he'll beat Essential Quality. He'll beat everybody. I do not believe in watching the replay that this horse improved his Brisnet speed figure 26 points from what he did in the Brooklyn. Now, this horse went to New York in the Brooklyn. I'm more impressed with what he did 2 races back. He went and took Lone Rock on, and he got beat 11 lengths, but he ran second in a pretty good field. and he had everything in the world happen to the horse. He's been running longer, though. I think this horse truly likes to go 1.5 miles. He took on similar at 10 furlongs in the big cap, the Santa Anita Handicap, and just got outclassed. Had a rough trip, but, this horse has had 1, 2, 3 work since the supposed career best. He increased his career best by 15 points on the Brisnet speed figure, if we're to believe that. Rich, I think this horse bounces like a basketball. We don't have enough time to go over the bounce theory today. Mandela's a good trainer, but I just don't see it. I think this horse is competitive in this field, but I just don't think he gets it done.
Doesn't get it done. Well, I think he's got a good shot. I think if he can get to the lead and run, if he can run 114 and 6 furlongs again, forget about it. Okay, Dr. or Dr. Post. This is a horse coming in from the East Coast, and talking with Trevor yesterday, he said sometimes these East Coast horses struggle a little bit because they're just not ready for the kind of fast track get out front that you have to do out at Del Mar. What do you think about Dr. Post?
I'm going to give you all a real quick history lesson. As I was looking at this horse, I looked at the page and I saw Vino Rosso all over again. Pletcher 4 years ago takes Vino Rosso in May and sends him out to Santa Anita to run in the Gold Cup. Todd, you're not running this horse at Belmont. Todd, you're going to save this horse for you're not going to save this horse for Saratoga. Mike Rapoli and the gentleman from St. Elias stable that owns the Tampa hockey team. Todd, what are you doing? Todd, what are you doing? Look, we're looking farther down the road. They're going to run the Classic at this course. This is exactly what he's doing with this horse. I guarantee you many of our viewers don't realize this horse ran second in the Belmont. This horse has put together a very good resume and has not gotten any fame at all. There's no myracehorses.com people betting on this horse or anything like that. But this horse has put together a very good record for an older horse. It's why the Breeders' Cup Classic is there. This is the dress rehearsal. He's coming into it in good shape. He won the Monmouth Cup. The Met Mile just was not a good fit for him. He's not a 1 mile horse. And, he didn't embarrass himself against Silver State that day. And Silver State just keeps winning and winning and winning. This race sets up. He comes off the pace. He gets Rosario to fly with him out west. Rosario spent years in California. He's ridden some of these other horses. He knows what to expect. He knows how to ride the racetrack. This horse very quietly, while doing the dress rehearsal for November, in this field, I think becomes a standout and a lot of check marks. And he's not going to be the number 1 choice. He's not going to be the number 2 choice. You're going to get probably 7-8 to 1 on this horse, I would guess. I don't look at the odds when I do my handicapping. I did it before the morning line, but I just think he's a play.
I think he's probably a play too. I do like this angle from, to me, it's an emerging angle from Monmouth with the no whip, the no urging. And then the horse gets to go in the next time out and run where the jockeys can actually encourage the horse a little bit more. So I like horse that show that can win without encouragement, because I feel like it'll improve with a little bit of encouragement. Royal Ship. This is a horse that Mike Smith is only ridden him since he's coming over from Brazil. And I think last time out was the favorite. I don't think he's lived up to what Mandela thought he would be when they first brought him over here from Brazil. What do you think?
Well, that's obvious, because let's face facts. This horse has won once in 7 California starts. The first 2 times he came from Brazil, they ran this horse on the turf. Didn't do much. They took him to the dirt. Didn't hit the board in the native diver against horses we're never going to hear from. Nobody's going to go to Old Friends and see, Extra Hope and Mid-Court, in any stalls or plaques there. They put him back on the turf in the Kilroe Mile. Didn't run anything. So what do? They stretch him out. Yeah, he won the Grade 2 California once again, not really beating anybody except Independence Hall, who had a rough trip. And then he's just kind of been, hitting the bottom of the board, and now he gets to face more talented horses today. This horse, distance is a question. It doesn't look good on paper to me, but much better places to go.
Well, like I said, I'm a cycle guy. I like to look at cycles. This is the second race off a layoff, and if you look at its previous 2 race cycles, an improvement, and a nice improvement there. He runs one of his best numbers. If he improves again, I think he's going to have a shot to finally live up to what Mandela had probably expected from him. And as I said yesterday on the show, I can't help but think of Chris Tucker every time I say Mandela in the movies Rush Hour when he's like, Mandela. Anyway.
Every time I think of Mandela, I think of the Breeders' Cup that day when it was a one-day deal and he won 4 races. And I had to watch that straw hat. And it's one of the first times in my life in a Breeders' Cup pick 6, I pitched the shutout. And, he won 4 of those 6 races.
So you were mad at him in straw hats afterwards.
No, I'm not mad at him. I gave him his credit as a trainer, but I just still, you've got Tiz Magician. Why are you bringing this horse? There's other places to run this horse on the card. That's all I can say.
Express Train, John Sheriffs. Should he be on a different card, or should you just put him in the winner's circle?
No. I don't see it that way. I think he's a horse that is a lot like Tiz Magician. They kind of remind me the same. They both want to be on the lead. They run almost exactly the same style. You're looking at 2 exact horses. He's 10-12 on the board. I understand that. Once again, not the biggest Juan Hernandez fan. I just do not see this horse getting through with this group. And I mean, mind you, I can't say anything bad about this horse. He went to Oaklawn, ran the Oaklawn Handicap, and lost to Silver State by a length and a half. He almost won the big cap this year. He finally broke through and won the San Diego Handicap. I can't say anything bad about this horse. I just don't see it being a good fit today. There's just other talented horses.
I like horses for courses. He's run at Del Mar. He's run there 4 times, won 3 of them. On any other track, 8 times, only won 1. So there's something about where the turf meets the surf that appeals to Express Train. And again, in terms of cycles, second start off a layoff. And when you look back, he does improve second time out. And since his last race, some really nice works at Del Mar. And that just confirms to me that Express Train really likes that track. I would expect a nice performance out of him. Magic on Tap. This is a horse I think this is one of those that are simply forgettable.
See, I tried to throw this horse out immediately. And then I go look at the work tab. 3 back, a bullet work out of 55. Then third out of 66. Then a bullet work out of 82. Now, I don't understand a lot of Bafford's horses this year. They're not following through. Look at today. Fenway's running. Everybody thought Fenway was a Derby favorite. Then Fenway thought Fenway was going to win opening week at Del Mar. Now Fenway's being shipped to a claiming race at Saratoga. I don't understand it, but every time I count Bafford out, for whatever reason, something happens that he comes through. I'm not going to pick him to beat this crew by any stretch of the imagination. Don't think that. But it's just one. Why are you running the horse here? I ask myself. You got beat 23 lengths, 3 back to, Independence Hall and
Royal
in
Ship.
And
Royal Ship in the California.
Ship. And I don't like Royal Ship today. So you took Express Train and Express Train on the last time, got beat by 6.5 lengths. I don't see this horse improving 6.5 lengths, especially over the course. But then I look at the works. I don't know. This guy does things I don't understand how he gets horses to perform the way they do. That's another topic for another time.
Well, they'll discuss that maybe in Kentucky. Independence Hall. This is a horse that I remember last year being on the Derby Trail. I liked and then kind of fell off the map a little bit. And now he's back and a little bit of a break. Beaten favorite last time out, Michael McCarthy. Florent Guru, these two haven't really teamed up much, but it is 1-for-1 at Del Mar. But the works aren't as nice as some of the other horses that we've talked about.
I just look at what happened in the Florida Derby last year. This horse had done well in the Sam Davis, just lost to a horse I really like, Sol Volante, out of the Patrick B. and Cone barn, and then came in the Florida Derby. He seemed to be right there where he wants. Had some bumps going into the first turn and then pretty much stopped running and then proceeded to take 8 months off and move from the Trombetta barn to Michael McCarthy. I think McCarthy's done a good job with this horse. I think, quite honestly, he's running him over his head. Comes back and runs him in the Malibu. to Charlton and horses like that, he was a little unproven. Then you go and pay the money to go to the Pegasus, and run against Nick's Go. That's not going to turn up well. And the horse only lost to Nick's Go by 3 lengths.
That was a good run. It might have been his best race, even though he didn't win.
Yeah. And, then you've got, he just always runs close, doesn't do anything. The rider's right elsewhere. But I do think with putting the blinkers on, it's going to make the horse focus. I'm expecting an improve. I'd play this horse on the bottom of the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to win, but it could hit the board. That's
where I have him too. Sheriff Brown to finish up the. No, there's one more after that. Sheriff Brown, Sheriff Coltrane, Sheriff Buford Pusser. They all have the same amount of winning today, and it ain't going to happen. Next, way over it said Simply Forgettable. Cupid's Claw. That one rounds out the. And that one had a really nice speed figure too. I think I'm beginning to see what you saw, because you're seeing horses that have just this incredible speed jump in the last race at that race at Del Mar. So either the track was lightning fast that day, or the numbers are off.
You got a horse that was claimed for optional claiming 50,000 a year ago, and then he was claimed again, and then they put him in a grade 3. And I don't understand a lot about what Craig Delassie does. Didn't understand a lot about what Wally did, but he hit a couple of. He had that 2-year-old one time that at Lone Star that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that was such a huge prize. You got a horse that couldn't win at Golden Gate, and you mean to tell me this horse is going to improve his speed figure? 29 points in the Cougar just because he ran second. I think those numbers are so far off, it's not even funny. And this horse is going to have to show me and beat me. And I don't think this horse beats 3 horses, except not counting the tiring 2. They're going to be in the speed duel on the front end. No. So
who do you like? Who's going to win this race, Tom? Who's going to go off to the Breeders' Cup Classic in November? My dog is sitting off to my right. She's having a heart attack because she wants some attention.
It's the Hall of Famer. Now, he's not going to be there. He's still fighting COVID. He didn't even go to the sale at Saratoga. He didn't even go to the yearling sale. So I don't look in the paddock, and if you don't see the silver hair of one of the greatest trainers around, don't be upset if Todd Pletcher's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Got travel restrictions. But I really think this race sets up well. He's going to have a nice pace to chase. I think you're going to have Express Train and Tiz Magician going to the lead and slugging it out and going through just crazy fractions. They're not going to get the fractions of 50 that they ran in the Cougar or in the San Diego Handicap of 47. I think this thing's going to be, I don't want to play all Joanne Jones and say it's all time, but I think it's going to be a lot closer to 45 than it is 47. And you got to go 10 furlongs. Neither one of these horses is going to do it. So I'm going to pick DR Post over Independence Hall, Tiz Magician, and I'll throw Express Train on there because I just really don't find anybody else I like.
For me, I kind of like the same horses, but I'm going to play the bias. I'm going to go ahead and say Tiz Magician gets the job done, followed by Express Train. One of those two, I think, will be up in the front. One of those two, I think, will be the winner because speed does play. Then I like Royal Ship, Independence Hall, and DR Post. They're all kind of in a really tightly bunched for me. DR Post might be the one that comes up and snags third or challenges for the win at the end. But that's the way I like it. Tiz Magician, Express Train, get to the front, stay to the front, because that's how you win at Del Mar. That's how you win at the Pacific Classics in the past. And whichever one's the favorite is probably going to run first or second. So maybe you want to do an exacta with the favorite, wheel it on both on the top and bottom, and hope for a shot to come in.
Let me ask you this question.
Go ahead.
Last question as a handicapper.
You asked the question.
A different angle than we've taken.
Go ahead.
Which one of these horses in the Pacific Classic would you be willing to bet your hard-earned currency on 77 days from tomorrow, 78 days from today? Which one of these would be, okay, throw out that we're trying to pick the winner today. If you were going to a casino and betting the futures pool for the Breeders' Cup Classic and you could only bet on one of these horses, Rich, which one would you go to the window and wager on?
None. knowing the other horses that are in there? None of them, because none of them I think are going to be able to keep up with the Knicks Go or an Essential Quality or there's a third one in there I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think any of them are going to be able to compete with the top tier horses in the Classic. Do you?
You know, I'm going to say this. Once again, I think the Pletcher barn is going to look at DR Post as the older 4-year-old. That's the swan song. We're going to try and win it in its last race before we send it off to the breeding shed. I would think that. I think these California speed horses, look, they might do very well in the dirt mile in events like that where they've historically dominated. But I think in the Classic, it's truly a class event. I just don't look at the resumes of these horses and see the class that's there. I don't see any of them that's run really in the Classics from California. I don't see any of them that says, okay, we didn't ship east and run in the Derby because 20 was a year with COVID and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, we stayed and dominated at home. Kind of like you see horses in the other race that we covered that won the race last year or ran second last year. So I always, in these win and you're in races, I always handicap it two ways. I handicap it for today. And then I say, look, Tom, you can lose some money today. Let's go back and find a horse you're going to want to bet instead of at 4-1 today, at 15-1, in 8 weeks. And you know what? I didn't win the battle, but I'll win the war at the end of the thing. So I always like to ask those questions in these kind of races in classifications like the Classic, where we know most of the winners because we know most of the contenders. We know who's going to show up and run and things like that. So that's kind of why I asked that question.
Well, for me, like I said, I don't think that any of these horses are really going to have a shot because I don't know that if speed holds up again at Del Mar, I don't know that any of them will be in front of Knicks Go, right? Any of them. So if they're not in front of Knicks Go and speed holds up, they can't beat Knicks Go. And if the stalker with the ability to punch it out at the end, none of them I think can beat Essential Quality. So I don't see either one of any of these horses beating either one of those.
I'll tell you the 11-week preview to the show, the big Breeders' Cup show we're going to have. At the Knicks Go craps table, Tom Carley's on the don't pass line with everything you allow me to bet.
All right.
I don't see that horse winning the Classic.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, right? And we'll talk about it when the time comes. That wraps up this show. If you like what you saw, make sure you tell your friends about us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, however it is that you communicate. And of course, while you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click on that subscribe button below. You can follow us at Racing Radar on Twitter and on Facebook. Let us know what you think. Hey, if there's anything you'd like for us to cover, let us know about that too. You can always tell me about it at gtsrichb@gmail.com. That's how Tom got a hold of me, and that's why Tom's here. We appreciate his input. He's got some great opinions, and I love him for expressing them. That's what we want here. Later on today, I'll be on with the other Tom to talk about international racing at York and Australia. That's on at 12 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. So make sure you check that out. It'll be right here at the Racing Radar TV channel on YouTube. And then, of course, tomorrow at for Del Mar, we'll have a live contest at Horse Racing Radar for $100. Make sure you head on over there. Between races, I'll be going through a very similar thing that Tom and I went through today. We'll be talking about how the pace plays at that particular distance and surface, the post positions, which horses are likely to get to the lead, which ones are likely to be charging late, and then, of course, which ones I think will win. Tom, it's been a pleasure. Glad to have you back. Is there a race for us to cover next week, or are they taking a little bit of break? Yes, there's two of them at Saratoga. There's at least two of them at Saratoga. It's going to be a Saratoga. Oh, yes, the Travers. Yes. It's going to be a Saratoga type meeting the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully they get a little better weather out there next week than they had yesterday because it was kind of ugly. The Travers is in 2 weeks, I do believe. Oh, it's 2 weeks. I think they've got the Alabamas next week, if I'm not mistaken. That's actually, I think, tomorrow. Because I just handicapped it. I hope it's not next week. Is that I did next week's work already. So, yeah, I think that one's tomorrow. Are you playing against Malachi? Am I playing against Malachi? Yes, I'm playing the other Murakara or something like that. Just beat him last time at a shorter distance. So I think the extra distance actually helps. So let's see. Next week we have
Well, I asked that question.
No, I don't think there is one next week.
I asked that. Hold on one second. I'm trying to look it up. I asked that question because if Malathat runs well at 10 furlongs, I've heard a little whisperings they might run her against the boys in San Diego.
Actually, there's 4 next week. 1 at Del Mar, and 3 at Saratoga, and the Travers is next weekend. So we'll be back for that. That's actually not a Breeders' Cup qualifying race. All right, Tom, it's been a pleasure as always. Like I said, if you like what you see, make sure you tell your friends about us. Hit us up online. Until we meet again, may all your tickets be winners, and we will see you hopefully in J. Marco's Winner's Circle.